Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to my Shabbat table. In front of me, I have all of our ritual items that we need as we welcome the Shabbat into our week. I have 2 candlesticks with candles. I have a Kiddush cup and some grape juice. And I have 2 rolls of challah on a challah board that is covered with a challah cover. Now you might be wondering, why is my challah covered? Why is it that we're not supposed to see the challah until after we have said the blessing over the grape juice or the wine? So I want to talk a little bit about that today. Oftentimes we hear that the reason we cover the challah is because the blessing for the challah comes second and after Kiddush, and we don't want the challah to feel bad for being second, which is a very cute thing to tell our kids, but we know that bread doesn't have feelings. So what's the real reason? Well, we have to do a bit of research and a bit of digging, but we find a clue in the Talmud. Talmud Psachim 100b tells us, it says, the Gemara relates, Rabbi Bar Rav Huna happened to come to the house of the exilarch, and the exilarch is the head of the Jewish community. His hosts were reclining for a meal, and the attendants brought a table before him so that he could eat as well. Since Shabbat had already started, he spread a cloth over the food and recited Kiddush. So let's break this down. Rabbi Bar Rav Huna is coming to the house of the exilarch. The exilarch is a pretty important guy in the Jewish community. We also know that we're in the Greek community because that's where the exilarch existed. So what does this mean that a table is brought to him as opposed to him sitting down at a table? Well, for this we look to a book that's called Food, A Culinary History. And in this book, it's explained that in ancient Greece, in every single banquet that we have, that the ancient Greeks had, regardless of the type of banquet, one of the things that was very common was having a movable table. Why? Well, homes were very small, and rooms were often all-purpose, meaning that the private and the public rooms weren't separated. They were one. So there's no room for a fixed dining room table like the one I'm sitting at here. Instead, tables were boards that were placed on top of trestles and then covered with a tablecloth. And these are the movable tables, probably the one that was given to Rabbi Bar Rav Huna in the Talmudic passage. But he does something interesting. He spreads a cloth over the food, and then he recites the Kiddush. Just like here, we have the challah is covered until we're finished saying the Kiddush. Well, the Talmud explains, it continues further. That was also taught in a baraita. A baraita is a rabbinic teaching that wasn't included officially in the Mishnah. And the sages agree that one may bring the table only if he has already recited Kiddush. And if one brought out the table before Kiddush, he should spread a cloth over the food and recite Kiddush. So what does this tell us? When we break it down, we see that the movable table shouldn't be brought before us. The movable table that has food, our dinner on it, shouldn't be brought out to us until we've actually welcomed in the Shabbat by saying the Kiddush. But what happens if the food is already out in front of us, like when we have a dining room table? Well, we just cover the food. We don't look at it until we're done saying Kiddush. As time goes on, however, these movable tables go out of fashion, and we have things that are more similar to our dining room table. And so we can't physically hide the food from us, but we can cover the food. Now we know that covering the food is not always a practical option for us. So we do the best that we can. We cover the thing that symbolically represents the dinner that we're about to eat. And we don't just say hamotzi on Shabbat, we say hamotzi anytime we're about to eat a full meal. And we say hamotzi because the bread represents the entire meal that we're about to be eating. So we cover the challah as a way to symbolically represent the food that is there, but we're not going to eat and we're not going to see until Shabbat actually begins with the Kiddush. And that's why we cover the challah before we say Kiddush on Shabbat. So I hope you've learned something new and exciting about our history, something that connects us to Jews all the way back to the beginning of the Common Era. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Shabbat Shalom.